I've collated all the Pokemon, so gotten rid of all of the ones that I crossed out before. And a problem I noticed, which I started counting up all the Pokemon on the pages I put together, right? So 71 here, 65 here, 53 here, 58 here. And so that is the first 4 pages out of like 10 or so. And you'll remember, my limit is 200, which means I'm going to need to be a whole lot more harsh than I've been, even after that massacre at the end of the last episode. So I think if I have the slightest doubts, oh man, feels bad though, but I think if I have the slightest doubts, they gotta go. Feels bad for something like a Charmeleon, but I just don't have the space. So Charmeleon is out. And then some of the Pidgeys gotta go, but I don't know. I guess Pidgeot. I don't like the name Pidgeot. Spearow, I quite like this triple thing we made here. Maybe Raichu goes, but I'm like Raichu's in the maybe even for Harshness camp, I think, right now. Coming along to Golbat. I don't know, Golbat feels very much like an evolution, except for the little legs, I guess. They could be like little pseudo wings, because he does turn into Crobat down here. I should have moved him next to him, but he does turn into Crobat eventually, so again, he's in the maybe. The other maybe. Oddish, Gloom, Vileplume, Blossom. These are all the didn't quite align, I guess, ones. I did a lot more aligning elsewhere. I guess I just missed it on this page. So they can all stay for now. Venomoth, Venomoth. I like the moths still. Really like the moths. Cleafa feels right for Clefairy. I think if you get rid of one, you have to kind of get rid of the other, but together they're quite good, and it's nice to have that tanky metronome Pokemon. So I think metronome's a really cool ability, and having someone dedicated to it's neat. Igglybuff might not be needed. It's kind of creepy looking. I don't know what the swirl is about. Here's me being harsh in quotation marks. Just so, fine, harsh. You gotta be harsh. Igglybuff's gotta go. I gotta steel myself and start getting rid of things. I have a weird affinity for Mankey. I really like the idea of how you evolve to Annihilate. I don't really like how Annihilate looks. So torn about that one. Because I think it's really cool that you can get the Annihilate with the Rage Punch or Dynamic Punch or whatever, but it's so strange. It looks like, what are those like swamp monkeys in Florida called? It looks like one of those. Or I don't know if they exist or if they're a cryptid, but whatever those things are. It reminds me of that. Which maybe it's meant to be like. Happiny, I quite like it. I like quite a bit with Chansey. Got our first dogs that don't look exactly like dogs, so I like that. Poliwag to Politoed I like. Maybe I just get rid of all the Meowths if we have such limited space. Oh, but Meowth is cool in a way. Like the Payday, that's cool. Mankey, there's so many fighting types. You know, okay, I'm sorry, Mankey, but... Oh, that feels bad. I like Mankey, actually. Oh, I liked Mankey too much. I can't do it. We'll come back. We'll come back to it. The first ones are going to be harder. We'll get into the garbage later. Okay. Coming up here, I just like this, you know? It's just fun. It feels like there only needs to be 2, but I don't want to get rid of any of them. Like, get rid of Machoke and then you get Machop to Machamp. It feels like too big of a leap, but if you get rid of Machop, you don't get the leveling up the Machop to the Machoke, so... Yeah, I think they gotta stay. These guys, again, they just feel very Pokemon. Because that's what it's about, right? It's about feeling Pokemon. So yeah, Magnezone, you don't feel Pokemon. You're out. Steelix. The design isn't quite as good as Onix's. You know, looking at them side by side like that. So maybe you're on thin ice. Tauros is great, and those extra Tauros we saw were really cool. I brought Grimer back. I felt bad. After looking at all those other Pokemon, I was like, you know what, Grimer's not so bad compared to like those Ultramon and whatnot. So I brought Grimer back. I felt bad. So he can stay for now, but one of these guys might have to go if we need that last little bit of room. Shelter, Cloyster, Ghastly. I feel like Clamperl should somehow be in here somewhere. I don't know how to make all that work. I got rid of Darkrai. I don't know if yeah, I think that was last time. I haven't gotten rid of anything off screen that I'm aware of, but just to be sure. I like all these in this line. Electrode's good. Hitmonlee, it is demony enough that I think it's okay for now. At least it's not Soccer Throw. It's not that bad. I brought all the bugs over here. All the similar bugs. I think Omanyte can leave. You know, because you just get your straight up Aerodactyl, you get your straight up Omastar, but then you can have a Kabuto turn into a Cubitops. I think that's fine. So you get the horseshoe crab, but then you get the cool demon bug creature. Okay, all the evolutions. I noticed that it's missing like poison, steel, flying. There's still a few that it could add. So we almost need like to leave 5 or 6 slots for the rest of those. I'd almost get rid of Mewtwo and Mew, but you know, the most powerful Pokemon and the mother of Pokemon, the rarest Pokemon, you can't do that. Only keeping one Porygon, because I like the idea somewhat of Porygon evolving to the better 3D graphics, but no, you can only have one Porygon, and the original is the best one. Something needs to be done about this mess. It's a lot of repeats. If Meganium goes, you keep the leaf on the head theme, which Meganium sort of abandons. But then the Tropius, well, none of the colors really make that much sense, but the, like it's not even a ripening banana or anything, you know? If they swap these two around, maybe. Because then he's got, like, they do kind of seem like bananas. Like, they don't have the banana leaf exactly, but I don't know. It seems weird to have a, maybe Meganium just goes because it's repetitive. I need the space, you know? The whole point of 200 was to make harsh choices, so yeah, Meganium's gonna have to go. I'm sorry, Meganium. You did nothing wrong, except I need space. Natu to Zatu feels right. Those ones I like the change, if that was what it was. Togepi to Togekiss actually feels a lot better than I thought it would when I'm looking at them side by side. And this looks, this is fun. Kind of lazy, but it's fun. I brought Why Not back, so I could see him compared to Wobbuffet. And if you saw that in the grass in Pokemon, that feels Pokemon. You know, it feels Pokemon. These are kind of weird. Maybe they go. Because that's... Bug Steel's kind of a neat typing, but yeah, we need the space. I'm a little bit on the edge about them, so maybe they go just for the sake of space. Okay. Delibird still feels very Pokemon. Mantine with its Remoraid is fine. These are these are two very cool little dogs. We've got the Fafnir with Paintbrush. We've got Daphne, Stantler, Miltank. I love the 3 legendary dogs. I like these guys. Celebi, these are great legendaries. Mamoswine doesn't feel connected to these. I don't know where he's supposed to fit, like between the two or something, but I think he can go. Like, I don't think he actually makes these better. And Remoraid feels like it belongs with Mantine in some form, but I guess they can't really evolve into each other. That'd be kind of weird. Marshtomp. No, Marshtomp's fine, really. It's fine. Poochyena and Mightyena. You know, we've got Houndour and Houndoom. Like, we already have the dark things, I think. Tailwind and Swallow, they're great. They're fine. I need to find something to do with these two, because I do like their designs quite a bit, but with all the limited space, it becomes a bit less useful. It becomes harder to justify keeping them. Shiftry I don't actually like that much, you know? Maybe I'll just get rid of him. Back when he first sort of came out, I thought he was way too busy. And now look at Pokemon. But Seedot's fine. Seedot's very simple, very cute. Doesn't go too far with looking like a human. Sableye kind of does go too far with looking like a human, but he is a ghost, right? Like, he fits that Haunter Ghastly, like, this is actually a spirit of the damned type thing. He kind of fits that. Molly, I don't know what I'm looking at exactly. These feel like they could be added to Rhyhorn in some form. Like, they even do the whole stand up on your hind legs when you get to the final evolution, but better than Rhydon did, I think. I need space. Do I get rid of them? Maybe I get rid of these two, or just Ralts, but I think I get rid of both of them. Keep Gardevoir for now. Shroomish is like the most Pokemon that I don't like. He's uninspired. I don't like what he turns into, but he's too tanky for a grass type and what he looks like. But he is just, you can't deny he's a Pokemon. Although the expression on his face might be a bit too far. For fighting for space out here, I don't know. Shroomish isn't bad. Shroomish can stay for now. Because it's when we get into the later stuff where we can really start comparing and being like, oh yeah, we don't need that at all. Like Roserade, for example. It's just a worse Rosalia. We can get rid of that easy. These three are great. I like these three. These, again, I think they work quite well. I really like the idea of Mankey being like a fighting monkey Pokemon. Come to think of it. I like the idea of a monkey, and I got rid of all those elemental monkeys because they were too much like just colored monkeys. Probopass. I like the idea of Nosepass evolving into something. Probopass, that weird mustache. You know, maybe I get rid of both of them. Yeah, I think I get rid of both of them. Okay. These two are like better versions of Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan in some ways. You are just like generic lightning creature, you know? And there's so many lightning creatures that actually have something going for them. Maybe I get rid of those. Like, it feel like you want to catch that and evolve into that, but, you know, there's only so much space. So, you know how I was talking about, I was doing a little bit of research, and you know how I was talking about there being too many Pokemon because of all the variety? Like, there's a bunch of different kinds of Taurus, and then there's a bunch of different plumages for the birds, and there's a bunch of different colors for the flowers, and there is like 9 billion different Spindas. So how many Pokemon are there? 9 billion Spindas plus the rest, basically. Because those 4 dots can appear at random in different places based on each of the possible Spindas, and which is based on their Poke ID number, and there's like 9 billion Poke ID numbers per Pokemon or something. So yeah, Spinda cosmetically, there is a lot of them. That feels right. I'm surprised that wasn't natural. Wailmer and Wailord, great. I think you need something that evolves into Wailord. You can't just catch a Wailord on its own. It's a bit too far. Trapinch Vibra, Flygon. Again, you can't just go from in the ground to Dragon, I think. I think that sort of hopping out of the ground works. Torkoal feels like it needs a lower evolution, like a Blastoise. Or maybe if you give a Blastoise a Sunstone, it becomes a Torkoal. Yeah, these are great. Barboach doesn't inspire me in any sort of way. Corphish feels weird on its own, but Crawdon doesn't feel like the thing it should turn into, but again, it feels too weird on its own, and I like Corphish enough that keep you for now. This doesn't feel like an evolution. This feels like just a... I don't know what's going on here. I like the idea of a sort of rocky, grassy, anemone thing, but yeah, I don't really know what to do with it. So yeah, Misdreavus. I don't like Mismagius, I decided. I don't like what it looks like. That's fine. I don't know how you get an Overquill. Overquill. If it knows Barb Barrage and it levels up. If a Hisuian Quillfish. Okay, so it's a Hisuian evolution. Yeah, that works. That works. We're not getting rid of many Pokemon so far, but don't worry. There's more to come. Kecleon, Castform, those are both great. Shuppet is actually pretty awesome. These guys right near each other. I don't know how you get a Dusknoir either. Kind of curious about that. If you trade it while holding a Reaper Cloth. Okay. Chingling to Chimcho, they're fine, yeah. Snorunt, is that a Pokemon? It's kind of like an enemy from Epic Battle Fantasy. More than a Pokemon, I think. Now, Glalie, I really like its design. It's very cool, but I'm not sure if it's a Pokemon, you know? It's really neat looking. It's kind of got the Haunter, ghastly, cool thing going for it, but if you see that, is it going to feel weird next to other Pokemon? Maybe. So, it's on notice. It's on notice. Clamperl, another one that I really can't make my mind up about. Because it's just a Cloyster, but it's, you know, it's different enough that it's hard to dismiss, but it doesn't look like... Most things look like there's a dynamism to them, like they're attacking or doing something, but Clamperl... How is a Clamperl attacking you? It feels like it should be a background piece. It should be a baby Cloyster, or like a baby version that it evolves into Shelder, maybe? Maybe something like that. Actually, if it evolved into Shelder, that would be kind of... That kind of worked for me. Keep it in mind. I fixed Matang's icon, but yeah, these guys are great still. This is how you make something combine, unlike that weird Magneton evolution. I like Shieldon and Bastiodon, they're fun. Again, these guys are good. Jirachi, you know, actually Jirachi's great. Maybe it should be a fairy rather than Steel Psychic, but Jirachi's great. These are good monkeys as monkeys go. Torterra doesn't... Is there a better picture of Torterra, or is that what you get? Yeah, that looks kind of cool. That said, you're just doing a Venusaur over again. Maybe you don't need a Torterra. I'll keep an eye on them. You know, looking at Swallowboo or whatever it was called, the Swallow from earlier, you don't need these. Starly's kind of fun, but you don't need the others. Maybe Starly can go somewhere. Kricketune and Krickot. The mustache is a step too far, I think. And then these things are just... Luxray's way too edgy. Yeah, no, they can go. We need space, they can go. Okay. That one feels good. We're getting over to that devil. I think you have one scary devil. Like you have Eternatus or you have Giratina, you know, something like that. And that works, that's fine. It's when every Pokemon starts looking like that that it really gets out of hand. But you're allowed one. And then Palkia and Diagla, they're on the edge. Because you have, you know, you get your Giratina, you get your weird thing, but you can't, but they are space and time, but as long as space, time, God, and the devil are all you do, then it's fine. But once you start adding more, then maybe that's where it starts falling apart. Lillipup, Herdier, and Stoutland. I like the idea. I like the triple dog. I don't think we can afford to spare the space, and we can't have that many dogs. Again, these are fine. These are decent. And a zebra Pokemon is neat, and they did a good job. I think Burmy and Wormadam have a ton of forms, as I understand it. But yeah, look how that thing looks. I don't think Mothim is needed when there's so many other good moths. Wormadam is its final form. Right, yeah, this is the thing that can just wrap itself in trash. Plant, sand, and trash. It changes its cloak based on the environment of its last battle. And the female one determines which form it evolves into. It's kind of neat when you look at the behind the scenes, I guess. Vespiquen is almost a step too far. Combee is... Like, I don't hate this whole line exactly, or at all, but it, yeah, this is what Cricketune could be. Like, that's a much better Cricketune, basically. Those slugs that come along later, I think this is a better version of a slug, actually, looking at this. So when we get to those slugs, we can probably get rid of them. If we're lacking space, then these things can go. These Abomasnows. Yeah, I really don't know what to do about these guys. I think it's just a bit too... It's a step too far. And I think Bug Flying is the most common typing, and like one of the weakest typings as well. So, if you see a Combee, you're like, yeah, that's a Pokemon, and then the Vespiquen... Well, the Vespiquen feels like an evolution. It feels like, whoa boy, that's scary. Look at this thing I got. But it doesn't... I don't know if it's Pokemon, you know? And with 200 spaces... Oh, am I gonna cross out a Combee? Look at him, he looks so happy. But why has he got his smiley face? He doesn't look happy in the right way, you know? These are animals, not cartoons. Yeah. Yeah, I think they gotta go. The cherry can stay for now, though. Can it? Someone throws out a cherry and... Like, that thing's gotta evolve if it wants to stay. But what's it evolving into? I think I got rid of what it was supposed to evolve into. And we already have Execute, which is... Yeah, you need a friend or you're fired. Kind of same with Roggenroll. Actually, Roggenroll is like a... It's kind of just a worse... not Graveler, the other one. Geodude. Sorry, Roggenroll. And it's got the weird shoe feet again, which I'm not a fan of. Mantike obviously evolves into that Manta Ray from before. Phineas Loomis, they're great. They could almost just completely replace Goldeen and Seeking, really, possibly. I'll have to think about it. These things... I'm sorry, we don't have the space. You're not bad, but we don't have the space. And same goes for the Murkrow and the Honchkrow, though they're less good than the Garchomp was. Ferroseed and Ferrothorn, I like the idea, but they don't quite work. Let's see, what do we got to work with here? Bit overdone, but it's not terrible. Clink, clank, clang. It's very much copying Magnemite's thing, and Magnemite already did it. Do I just get rid of it? Yeah, no, it's just a bunch of gears. They can go. I like the disc. This thing, again, send that out. It doesn't have an evolution because I got rid of its evolution. What are you fighting, really? Maybe it can go. This is more Studio Ghibli than Pokemon. I think it can go. No, let's not cover it with Sigilglyph. Again, Rufflet Bravery is great. If I'm really... I could get rid of like the Fearow and keep these, maybe. If I'm really like tight for space. Which I probably will be. But yeah, the idea is to get it down to the ones that are actually good. We already have Dusclops for creepy. We don't need like a literal coffin. You're just uninspired, and if I'm going to keep that mouse hold, then yeah, I don't really need you. The deer was cool. I don't really like Galvantula. I kind of like Joltik, but you know, it doesn't feel quite right all the same. I think a redesign of them could work quite well. I like the idea of an electric tarantula thing too, but that isn't quite it. And you want to find some weird Pokemon, but I don't think this is how you design the kelp Pokemon, sadly. That can stay for now. These are cool. These are cool. Yeah, I don't think we need these weird slug dragons, because there's those other slugs which are better. And that frees up a bunch of space. I put the Marshadow next to these because it seemed like it fit along with them quite well. The Klefki... Yeah, I don't need a Haunted. You're almost You're really pushing the line. I like the idea of a giant sentient iceberg. At least that picture really doesn't... Yeah, I can kind of... Like, it's kind of like Onyx level of detail, which is alright, I guess. Decidui is another one that's pushing it, for sure. Yeah, Oh, they have this Hisuian Decidui, which... Very thick legs. It's an owl, of course, but... You know, that's like a cloak it's wearing. I think that's too far. And that one's got a bow tie. Yeah, you just doomed your entire generation. Stop putting clothes on Pokemon and just have Pokemon be Pokemon, you know? The little bug, it's an electric bug. We already got rid of one electric bug, and I do like it. Joltik could be the final evolution of the weird grub bug thing. Or it'd be neat if it had like a moth form or something for that one. So what's the deal with Wishiwashi? Because it looks like, well, nothing. It can change forms with its schooling ability if it has reached level 20. So it turns into a school of Wishiwashi. I guess that's... There's another Pokemon that I hadn't seen before. It's crazy how many there are. I guess that's kind of interesting. Marini... Yeah, it's not quite... Like, it's a person inside of a urchin thing. I'm not sure what it's meant to be exactly, but instead of it being an urchin thing, that is a creature. So yeah. Or if the thing inside was a ball like Cloyster, maybe I'd be more into it, but that's just a little person with hair. Again, why is it wearing clothes? Like, it's wearing horse clothes, but still, it's wearing clothes. And you don't look like a Pokemon, you look like some weird knockoff thing that someone was trying to copy Pokemon. Like a weird 3D render. You can go Genesect. Genesect is what the Ultramon should have been, right? Like, it's not quite a Pokemon. Deoxys as well. It's not quite a Pokemon, but you're like, yeah, okay, I can see it that it's a weird artificial Pokemon. That sort of works. But it's not too far removed from the original thing. So yeah, Genesect for that can stay. Spritzy, again, feels Pokemon-y. You guys all feel kind of Pokemon-y. I like those. I like how that has the male and female form. Could probably just cut out the middle double blade, because it feels weird that it loses one. And it's not really much. So just from Honedge to Aegislash really makes more sense. Yeah, you're good. I brought Stunky and Skuntank back as well, because they remind me a lot of, you know, I got rid of Zigzagoon because Zigzagoon didn't quite work for me, but this is kind of like Zigzagoon done right in my mind. So yeah, I think these guys should stay. And I also brought back Totodile, Crocodile, and Feraligatr because compared to the competition, they are so much better. So they're back again for now. Drowsy and Hypno, Dragonite, Dragonair, I brought all them back as well. So I could, and Seal and Dugong actually, so I could compare them with like this. Yeah. This is what I brought them back for. It's got those little legs. Thwacky I'm torn on. It doesn't really look like anything. Bruxish is almost a step too far. These psychedelic mushrooms. You know, Nintendo did Pokemon Mario Wonder recently, which was about Mario and psychedelics, and they apparently did psychedelic Pokemon as well. I wonder if Nintendo's trying to say something. You aren't a Pokemon, right? Like, I don't know. I don't know why I keep keeping it in. It's a compelling design, and it feels like it should evolve from like a Mankey that is exposed to psychic radiation or something, but it doesn't feel quite right. And that's not something you catch. That's like a fairy. I mean, it says fairy, but yeah, that doesn't seem quite right. We've already got mushrooms that aren't weird psychedelic. These aren't Pokemon, right? Like, they're a bit too skinny, maybe. They're a bit too out there. Stuffle's proportions also don't feel right. But Beware, feels very much like a Pokemon, so I think it stays for the moment. Pincurchin design's not quite right. It could be a Pokemon. Like, I want to see a proper sea urchin, but that one isn't it. And yeah, I don't know why I kept you in the first place. This thing, it is kind of Pokemon-y, right? Like, I don't know what makes it Pokemon-y, but this one not. I think it's because its body is its thing, whereas this it's carrying the whole thing. No, you're wearing clothes. You're not a Pokemon. Sorry, clothes remove Pokemon status. That's my new rough guideline, unless you're like a Farfetch'd or something. And then you're specifically Farfetch'd because you carry something around with you. But then you have all these things that are just doing it and nobody bats an eye. Obviously there's different regions where they have different standards for what is like normal, but still, step too far. Nice and simple. Bug, moth, I like it. I don't like this thing, but it doesn't have any reason to be gotten rid of, really. This thing's really neat how it evolves. ice cream Pokemon make the slightest bit of sense. Like if you put this next to a Rhydon and a Tentacool, an Electrode, a Rapidash, a Parasect, and you say, oh yeah, Pokemon are these animals out in the world. And also this bit of ice cream fairy creature. Then you're like, no, sorry. It doesn't work. If this was the legendary, their one legendary per gen or something, maybe. But yeah, it doesn't quite work. I think the biggest problem here is that Hattrem looks like it's wearing a hat, whereas these two look like they're made of their hat. So you get rid of Hattrem. That thing looks quite creepy when you don't see the middle ground. It doesn't look like human at all. I don't know. You see that and you're like, I gotta catch that. I think, like it's a weird creature in the forest. I'm kind of into that. It's similar to Hypno, sort of. Hypno might be a step too far, but I'm just comparing it to some of these other things at the moment. Yeah, that doesn't work. These are just lines. They don't look like anything. You see a Yamper in the... I'm trying to imagine, if you see these in the tall grass, what is your first impression, right? You go, oh yeah, that's a Pokemon, or you go, oh, what has Pokemon Company done next, this time, right? And you see Boltund and you're like, that's not... what's going on here? Like, it takes you out of the game. But you see a Yamper and you're like, oh, I want to see what this evolves into, so you catch the Yamper. I see that and I think, oh, that's just a Fafnir, but worse. I see that and I think, why does it have this weird blade? Like it's meant to be a copper elephant, so it kind of makes sense, but it doesn't quite work. I like the idea, but we already have a metallic elephant creature. That one isn't it. You see this in a mine and you're like, yeah, okay, it evolved to work with mine tracks or something. That kind of sort of makes sense. I think I'm just justifying because its ability is so cool, but it is really cool ability, the whole steam engine thing. Sizzlepede into Centiskorch is pretty cool. Maybe you don't need the Sizzlepede if you use like one of those fire moths, but for now, I'll just keep the both of them. And then final page already. It's much quicker if you do it this way around. Yeah, turn out, like we already have the devil. We don't need whatever that is. And these things are, I don't know, almost growing on me. Cleaver looks like a Bionicle. It doesn't look like a scissor evolution. Like it looks like Pohatu Mata, almost exactly. And it's kind of weird. It can stay for now though, I guess. I like the convergent evolution thing actually. This feels like you don't need two, it could have just been one, I think. And is that even a Pokemon? It's like again, we're looking Studio Ghibli. It doesn't actually turn into a proper frog, but... And they're not taking an element in a creature, they're not taking an object in a creature. It's like, oh, a tadpole and a light bulb, instead of... And I think it's probably because the English took over, so they were able to make these puns easier rather than say, okay, we need, what do we call a lightning frog in English and in Japanese? And it can be a totally different pun because you're sort of focusing on that. But I don't know. I think it's kind of cool still. You're out in the ocean like, oh, I want that. Okay, so this Gimmighoul can go. This Brute Bonnet can go. These weird toothless dogs can go. I think these whales can go. The Veluza is basically a Barracuda done properly. I fixed Chin Pao's model because it was starting to get to me. It was confusing me. And I thought, hey, Salandit into Skeledirge is kind of... You poison them and then they die, and they're both fire and they're both crocodile-ish. I don't know what Skeledirge is supposed to look like. Like Day of the Dead thing. What does one look like in-game? Looks like a Donkey Kong villain. That looks like a demon. What are we looking at here? Why is there no pictures of this version of Pokemon? Is it just too recent, or did nobody care, or what's going on? Because I'm sure it's still doing great. Pokemon just always does great. Yeah, I think it's too overdone, sadly. I like the idea of a fiery... I don't know. Like a ghost fire starter crocodile is such a cool thing. Salandit doesn't really look right, though, and it just doesn't quite work. But it's such a cool idea. That's what's keeping it here for me, basically. Chi-Yu. Can't actually see what's going on there. Oh, it's like a koi fish thing. The member of the Treasures of Ruin. Okay, oh, that's pretty cool. I do like that. You're cool. Raging Bolt is maybe... That's kind of neat. Is that like Galapagos turtle, like Pteropagus, like Darwin's turtle? Or tortoise, rather? Or is that something else? Pteropagus. Yeah, and then there's also the problem of the Reggies. they don't really feel like they fit the whole vibe properly. Like, that's just a dragon's, like, you're not a dragon type if you just have a giant dragon skull. And that's not, I don't know how you do a lightning thing, but I don't think that's it. If I got rid of these guys, I'd have a lot more space, but we're not getting to that bargaining point yet. Right now, we're just getting rid of the bad ones still, now that we can compare them to the later generations a bit more. Flamingo is just like a flamingo. Like, it doesn't really have, but that's kind of, it feels, like, it fits though, it fits so well. Like, you just see that in a marsh and you're like, yeah, that's a Pokemon. Whereas you see Chen Pao and you're like, is that a Pokemon? Am I now playing Chinese Pokemon? That is the problem actually with these things. They're so on the nose Chinese. Like, it's not like, oh yeah, Pokemon's got an equivalent of the culture. It's not just straight up Chinese. And maybe it's too on the nose. Like, a Chinese Pokemon spin-off would be really cool. That's kind of the problem with the Paradox Pokemon in general, I guess. You can't have them in the next Pokemon game, because they don't fit. They fit maybe for one game as a special thing, but they can't be in the next game. And you don't catch like a Chen Pao and trade it to the next game and then send it out to be fight. Like, it doesn't, they're super cool, but I want to see like standalone Chinese Pokemon, I think. Yeah, feels bad to get rid of those. It's kind of the same with the Paradox Pokemon. Maybe they're fine in their game, or maybe they're fine as an alternate form, but they're not. They're not really Pokemon. The Iron Moth and Iron Thorns, they stand out a bit more as being standalone. You can sort of see them in their own game. Having a past Entei is also weird, because Entei is like a legendary or semi-legendary like dream Pokemon, right? He's the dream Pokemon, so it's kind of weird to have a past version of him, because he's meant to be sort of this unique being that can control reality as long as you believe in him, or something like that. Great Tusk just sort of works, even. Wish I had a better name, but I think he still sort of works. Yeah, these guys, let's see if there's a different picture of the Tadbulb. Oh, that looks so cool. But it just doesn't quite work for me. What's the Tadbulb? What's the deal? You know, I think it's the face. If they had a face that looked like little, like you see the little shine, if this was its face, this eye here and this eye here, and then it had, you know, maybe it could have a little mouth, or maybe not. Like, you do something like, and maybe I let you get away with like something like that, right? If that was Tadbulb, then, you know, I'm looking at it, I'm like, you know, yeah, that's kind of a thing. But as it is, I think it's got to go, sadly. Even though I really want a frog. An electric frog is also really cool. Just because you want it doesn't mean you can abandon everything for it, you know? So we had to get rid of like, what? Several hundred. We probably got rid of like 50. I probably got rid of more than that. Like, you can see the red in here. There's a lot of X's in there. Even the first 4 were almost replacing it, right? Like, yeah, before it was 53. So we got rid of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So now we're 45. Add another 58. Now we're at 103. So we're at 100. We're at 97. We're up to 150. Minus 3, 145, so 210, and then 281. So we're at 281 with the first 4, after everything being removed, and I said there's only 200 allowed. Which means I have to be much more harsh, or I have to, at some point, just say, okay, you know what, fine. Okay, you know, well, first of all, Berserker can go. Putting that into context, Berserker can go. But, and I got rid of Persian if I hadn't seen that before. But yeah, just putting that into context, I think, and of course I'm going to be biased towards Gen 1. Like, I'd get rid of Goldback, probably, if I wasn't so biased towards Gen 1. You know, Mankey, Primeape, Annihilape, you're using the same pun twice, and Mankey and Primeape look so similar. If I'm going to keep them, I can probably get rid of Primeape. Although you kind of need the 3 for the, because Annihilape has like crazy high stats. Which isn't the major consideration, but it is a consideration. That you want these Pokemon to not just be worthless, standing on their own sort of thing. But yeah, I either need to raise the limit, or just start getting super harsh. So I think I'll start getting super harsh, but I'm also going to condense them down. And that can be like my, this round, or maybe the round after that can be my harsh, but not like 200 harsh list. Which goes to show that there is, you know, there's a decent amount of Pokemon out there that feel right. You know what? You can go Bruxish. You can go Minior, because you're not doing anything. And I like the idea. We already have a teddy bear. We have those little Ursula and whatnot. You can go, Ted Ursula. You guys can go. You we've seen before a dozen times. It's just the cute little rodent. We like that's all the Pokemon are. Goliswad's on thin ice. But it is kind of, it's like this little thing, the wimp that turns into this intimidating thing, so it does kind of work for me. Do we need Thwacky if there's such a competition for space? Can't decide. And again, these guys, we have the better versions of them now, so it's kind of like, do we need them? But they're so much more Pokemon compared to some of these things. Like Drampa, Drampa, I really like the design, but yeah, that's not a Pokemon, is it? Really think about it. Mimikyu feels kind of like a Pokemon, this is haunted thing. And Bounsweet, like, it's just a worse Oddish, really. Like, I'm imagining, okay, you boot up the new Pokemon game, and you're like, okay, this is going to be just like Gen 1, but with a new region, with new Pokemon, but they're still going to look like Pokemon. Like, you're not going to feel like you're playing a different series, right? And then, boom, out jumps a Solgaleo, and you think, well, that looks kind of like a legendary, I guess. But out jumps, like, a Boltund, and you're like, wait, is this like a fan game, or is this made by... Like, is this a copycat? Is this a Pokemon clone? What's going on here? But out jumps a Snom and a Frostmoth, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm playing Pokemon. This is cool. This is a new region. And Delmise, you're like, yeah, this reminds me of Emerald, sort of. And oh, this is like a creepy Haunter-like thing, but it's not too far out of the ordinary. And Grookey feels like he really fits as well. I don't know if Rillaboom and Thwacky do. Especially if Rillaboom has his, like, giant drum. So then he should just go back to Donkey Kong, right? But yeah, I think this is where I will call this one this time around. And Cleaver actually does fit in that sort of mindset. You're like, ooh, this is a new Scyther thing. That's kind of cool. So it does fit in that sense. Yeah, gonna call it there. And well, I'll truncate it again a little bit and see what I'm left with. And then I guess I start getting super harsh. I might have to like mix them up a bit. I already mixed up the pages somewhat, but if I mix them up more, it means that I can compare them to different generations rather than within their own generation. And then I can be a whole lot harsher because I'm like, well, this compared to this one's obviously better, that sort of thing. Yeah, for now, I hope you're enjoying it, and take care.